some cleanup and final sort of fit of our stem here. It's time to probably commit and get this all glued in. I got a little piece of the actual material. So the process, we're going to come to each of these corners at the Chine and Shear, and we're trying to figure out where that intersection is based on this angle, and the maximum piece of this we can keep, and as it's shaved down, so it would be like this. We know we're going to shave off the edge of the ribs to fit the bevel on both side and bottom, and so we'll also be shaving down the exposed stringer bits to also follow that bevel. So we're going to mark kind of on that angle and cut those notches. On the transom though, we actually want to cut the back of the stringer to fit this angle and to make it easier to fasten, as well as to have better contact for the plywood along the transom. I'm going to make 1x1s beforehand, so that's next. A little bit more of how this is going. So we've got our chine coming along, giving this angle. We know the actual piece is going to be sitting in like this. So we're going to make something that helps us to hold that on there, and also when it's beveled provides additional gluing surface for the plywood there. We'll go on there. Going to put some glue on the bracing around the transom and commit and fasten on the stem. So I'm going to say that's pretty good.
Brian's house has been healed.
It's still a bit of a mystery why it got so bad.
Yeah.
I think, like, the one thing, mourning instead of sweating your guts out.
That'd be a better plan.
Yeah.
Alright, well, I'm gonna go try to clean the yard up.
Oh, the game,
I hope
the game
so. The
started.
neighbors have been talking.
It's
I
it
know,
hasn't started yet.
Oh, we're gonna go put that
Just
thing
put
in.
up the.
Let's go put
Oh,
that
okay,
thing
let's
in.
go look at your back from DC for our company conference, and got a little bit of time here left this afternoon, and we're excited to push on a little bit on the boat. And it's time to cut out the notches, letting in for the shear and the chine, and cut in the angle to receive the ends back there. Clamp down the Keelson just to give last little bit of stability. Figure out how much I can safely cut off from the stern end of this. Yeah, that's probably right around where the row lock will go. I can move it aft just a little bit. I hate to run out of wood. Looks like if I cut 6 inches, and then you just have to go. Obviously, a little bit of a dangerous tool. If anybody ever watches this, lots of people will have suggestions about how to do it more safely, but
Aw, somebody missed you.
I missed my Elton. You look like you've grown. Let's go see. Does he go?
Can you wave bye-bye to Pop?
Bye. Go. Do it again. Run a temporary screw. One of those operations that would be easier if there were multiple people. Let's see what happens. I'm pretty happy with that. Replicate this on the other side. Well, after all that, looking at curves and everything, I took a look down the shear here. It seemed to go straight and then jump that way. So I removed a 1/2 inch here and a 1/4 inch back here, and I'm happy with that. I remember this always being a scary move, committing to the taper here. So just kind of project where that tip's going to be, and that's pretty good. We got to do the other one. We've got a pretty decent curve going here. If you look along the chine, and now we can really see the chine and the shear together. I think in both dimensions that's looking good. So I'll try to reflect that on the, let's see what would become the starboard side. With a little luck, this will be the last cut before trying to actually glue these guys into place. All right. Next step, roll it out of here, clean up, put some plastic down, and then get on to gluing all this up. I guess this is kind of taking her outside for the first time. So there it is, sort of in the light of day for just a moment. Sweep up, put some plastic down, and then we can start gluing. With a little luck, we got ourselves a frame. Looks like the last Cosmo sail of the year, probably. Beautiful day. It really is perfect, isn't it? Probably the last one. Thanks. So there's Deb, there's Bub. And we'll see. Sail of the year, at least in Cosmo, probably.
Is that a boat? It's going to heat. Are we coming about, Elvis?
Well, checking on the set of the epoxy from gluing on our stringers and Keelson, the Chine and the Shear. And the acid test is our brush rock hard, so that stuff all went off really well. I'm noticing a couple of things that I didn't anticipate. There's a lot of upward force on these two, actually 4 strips, and I hadn't pinned the top of the Keelson or the stem all the way down. I've since done that. And the result was it pulled the distance just a little bit short on these guys. So that's all right. I mean, we'll just increase the curve slightly and adjust for it. And there's a couple of spots where I'm seeing some gaps. I'm just going to mix up some putty epoxy with a little bit of filler and close those gaps and give it a little bit more time to cure. It's actually, weather's starting to get nice and fallish and cold, so since epoxy cures by heat, we're going to be battling that as this project goes forward. Alright, we've got these guys loose without too much damage. The Chine is not wanting to move at all out of its place. Hopefully that semi-soft putty will not reattach. In the worst case, you turn the boat right side up and I have to destroy the former to get it off of here, but hopefully that's good enough. The shear's wanting to move, so like I did on the other side, I'm going to install a backing block, and this needs to be something that once the plywood is across the side here is removable. So we want to have a screw going through that into the shear, holding it in place. So. Or are we going to go into the shop and see the sailboat that we're building?
Yeah.
Now, Laura, can you say, "Go Bucks"?
Go back.
And then you know what you say when they score? You go, "Touchdown!"
Shut.
And then you know what we're going to do? We're going to go drive and get some wood for the boat. What do you think? Is it looking like a boat?
Yeah.
Do you want to go sailing in it when we get it done?
Yeah.
I think so. I think we're going to do that.
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
Well, Doug is tying a board on top of the car because it is too big to fit in the car, and we have our granddaughter, Cora, who's ready to... Cora, you want to say hi? Say hi to the picture.
Hi.
Uh-huh. Hi, picture. Okay. But anyway, Doug bought some mahogany
Yep.
to, what do you call the things that you're making out of mahogany?
Well, eventually the seats or thwarts, the rail, the deck. But the first thing we need is the skeg, daggerboard trunk pieces, and a brace underneath where the mast step would be. We need those pieces before we can do plywood. So
Right.
I think that's not going anywhere. I hope it's not going anywhere. A nice early fall morning going here, and a couple of items. Got the first pass through editing a video together. We'll see how that goes. It's a learning experience. Thanks for putting up with my camera work. One of the things I want to do, we're kind of moved beyond, for the most part, these plans for the duration of the build, but there are two final adjustments, and I want to, I haven't done this in the past, some of those final tweaks don't get reflected onto the plans, and then if I wanted to rebuild the boat, another version, can't really trust the drawings and a little bit of a start over. So one more time through the lofting, scale lofting process to reflect the final adjustments at moving the shear up at F3 and up at the transom as well. And then bought the first of our sapelli, or sapele, I guess is how you're supposed to say it. It's African mahogany, very similar to mahogany. It's beautiful stuff. It's great for marine use because it's not only easy to work, but it is rot resistant and tends not to warp. So I'm going to be using this for the fins, the daggerboard, and the rudder. We'll use it for the rails, the little deck surfaces on top, around the edges, and the seats, the thwarts. But the reason I needed it now is I'm going to take the clamps off here in a minute and begin the process of shaping these bevels. And before we can put the plywood on, there's a few pieces out of sapelli that are helpful to do first. One is making and installing the skeg, this little fin that helps it when it's just a rowboat without the rudder in the water, helps it to track. And make and install the daggerboard trunk. So as we're working the edges of the plywood pieces, that's all set first. That'll go back here. And then a strengthener piece of sapelli that runs from R1 to R2 that just becomes something especially to build on for the forces of the mast step that sits on top of that up against this rib. So we need some sapelli just to get started with that. We'll have to buy more. Although this guy will probably make a couple of the thwarts. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to take the smaller pieces out of this 1x6. So clamps off, and bought a couple of more clamps during the last couple of days. So my clamp storage system's going to need to get revamped. Oh, and I got a little mechanical pencil instead of this Poor old guy, for all the fretting about the width of these lines. My wife had mercy and said, I need that. Plus, plenty of eraser. With all the rework, that eraser's about gone, so that's a good thing. Alright, let's take the clamps off and see if it all holds together. Alright, so one last look down the reference line. It's not perfect. It's got a slight bend that way in the center, maybe a 1/16, but it's close enough. I think we're in the good enough zone. We can lose the line and put that away. And we've got some temporary screws functioning as clamps. This is something that I don't know, I find it useful. So we'll take these out before the epoxy gets too hard on them, here and here as well. So I'm pretty happy with that. This holds together. Kind of a fun milestone to see the boat without the